Mehdi Hassan did a really good job on his latest appearance on Piers Morgan's show in calling out what I think with many of us in a similar sector of the internet, friends of mine, others, what drives us so crazy about Piers Morgan. We deal all the time with people who are right-wing. That's not the thing that makes it uniquely upsetting watching Piers Morgan's show or appearing on his show. It's that he frames it as unbiased journalism and just stating the facts, but then obviously structures his show in a very biased way towards supporting Trump, and does that by putting oversized emphasis on like weird wokeness while ignoring genuine threats to our democratic institutions, or refuse during the campaign to talk comprehensively about the massive flaws that we've been discussing, literally seeing Trump's entire economic agenda collapsing because he's been using illegal authority. But during the campaign, we knew the incoherence and the dangers of Trump's economic approach. And you don't hear Piers Morgan talking about that, but he'll spend all this time talking about Kamala Harris flubbing an answer or something. And there's all these examples like that. And Mehdi Hassan took him to task in his most recent appearance. Let's watch.
Policy on Taiwan that Ronald Reagan...
I should say, the context of this is Piers Morgan played the AOC answer on Taiwan, where she kind of, for 20 plus seconds, struggled to get an answer going and then gave a fine answer, but the kind of build up and lots of uhs caused it to go really viral and, oh, what a blunder. And so then Mehdi makes the point that, sure, that wasn't a great answer. Hey, do you have a consistent standard on this though? Because you're very focused on it, fine, but are you being consistent? Because the guy who's currently in the White House gives that bad of an answer, but worse, but 10 times a day. So is there any consistency?
Just the quickest pause to request that you click the subscribe button, the simplest, easiest, freest way, completely free, to support the work that we do. Right below the video, click that subscribe button. Back to the video.
Set up, not me, Ronald Reagan set up. So you can go on about AOC's 20-second umming and ahhing, which wasn't great for AOC, I admit. Or we could talk about the fact that Donald Trump has a very bad policy on Taiwan that goes against US traditional national security policy. And we could talk about the fact that Donald Trump's sentences make AOC look like the most eloquent woman in history. What are you talking about? Have you heard Donald Trump rant about shark attacks, about the size of Arnold Palmer's penis, about toilet flushing? AOC's never said anything like that. Donald Trump, hold on, I haven't finished. Donald Trump went to Davos, Piers. Did you play the clip? Did you play the clip in the interest of fairness and intellectual honesty, to quote you? Did you play the clip of Donald Trump in Davos calling Greenland Iceland again and again and again? He went to Davos and embarrassed himself, calling it Iceland. And by the way, worse than calling it Iceland, he wants to invade Greenland. No Democrat has ever suggested anything as mad as going to war with Denmark as Donald Trump. So please don't come here and talk about gibberish and intellectual honesty. Your pal is the most deranged person to ever get close to any top office anywhere in the West.
Do you know what? I haven't heard such a strident piece of apology since Comical Ali in the Iraq War, when he was trying to explain why the Americans...
Everything I said was true, and you can't dispute a word of it. Did you play Donald Trump's clip at Davos? Did you play on this show? The Americans are not on this show.
Okay, I'll play more. It gets even better, and Mehdi kind of throws back Piers' past statements about Trump in his face. And I think Mehdi has that same unique frustration with Piers because of what I'm talking about. It is a very different thing if someone goes, I just love Trump and that's why I'm always apologizing for him. It's different when you go, no, I'm just calling balls and strikes. But then at many points, especially during the campaign and since Trump became president again, Piers' show has been just kind of like a pro-Trump platform, not because of an honest interpretation of the facts, but an obviously biased interpretation and sometimes misstating of the facts. And it drives me, my friend Josiah, I'm sure Mehdi, bonkers, which is why we talk about it a lot. But then there, it's interesting that Piers used the word apologia. Even when Mehdi said, yeah, that was a bad answer. Cool. Yeah. In terms of rhetorical delivery, it was bad. As a politician, if you get asked a question and for 25 seconds, you're just kind of like, people are going to make fun of that. Okay. And it's hard not to go, wait, if we're on this subject of how this is such an important thing to many of those covering it, especially in center-right media, please, I gotta ask while we're on the topic of bad answers, do you hear the current president? It's not whataboutism, because I'll answer that first, the AOC answer in and of itself. But then it's separate question, are you consistent? Because if you're reacting this way about that, I'd love to see how you react and how much time you devote to Trump's inability to thoughtfully articulate anything on almost anything.
On this
Let me
show,
answer.
Piers, did you
Let me
play a clip
answer.
of your pal
Let me
Donald
answer.
Trump
Mehdi.
saying Greenland
Mehdi.
is Iceland?
Mehdi.
Yes or no?
Mehdi, yes, multiple times. And more than that, I interviewed
mocked
the
him for it,
Prime
did you?
Minister. Wait a minute. Yes, and more than that, I interviewed the Prime Minister of Greenland as well. Did you?
So what's that got to do with anything? We're
What's
talking
the
about
matter
the fact
with
that
you?
you have run cover for Donald Trump. Piers, do you agree? Do you agree that Donald Trump is mad, nuts, deranged, and mentally unfit for office? Do you agree with that? Do you agree with
Why
that
do
or
you
not?
do this? Why don't you just?
agree he's mad,
Why don't you
nuts?
just say, Mehdi?
I mean, it's a simple question, Piers. People are watching. Do you agree that Donald Trump is mad, deranged,
It's not your show.
and unfit for office? Because those
It's
are
not
your
your
words,
show.
Piers. Those are your words.
When I come on your
Those
show,
are your words.
When I
You
come
call
on your
Donald
show,
Trump-
when I come on,
you call Donald
Mehdi,
Trump deranged,
Mehdi,
mad,
time out.
and nuts.
When I know, and occasionally I think he is those things. And as you know, I've said it when I think he is, and when I think he deserves praise, I give him praise. My point is though that you're
but overall, you
as
accept
blinkered
he's
about
nuts.
AOC.
So then we stop there and say, you agree sometimes Trump is mad, deranged, unfit for office. Then how on earth could you lavish praise about how brilliant he was on this thing or that thing? Or essentially, if not explicitly, support him in 2024. That's what your program was. I was on it multiple times during that period of time. It's just the case. When you had previously described him that way. But then Piers tries to do the cutesy thing of, well, sometimes when I think he's mad and deranged and unfit for office, I say it, but sometimes I think he's great. That's not really what those terms mean. You're describing the character of a man that you would not want to be in office. I'm assuming he said that back when he responded to January 6th, I'm not sure, but crazy.
No, I think sometimes he's perfectly normal and lucid. Sometimes he does nutty things.
Most of the time. Come on, Piers. This is a man who rants about shark attacks, who talked about Arnold Palmer's penis at a rally, who did an impression of someone doing oral sex on a microphone at a rally. There's been no president like this. I hate George W. Bush, but I would put George Bush 100 times above Donald Trump in terms of intellectual and mental fitness for office. You cannot question any Democrat's intellectual fitness for office when you have supported this man, the most deranged man, your words, deranged, mad, nuts man, in office.
Just to be clear,
this is a man
Mehdi,
who couldn't
here's the
find
problem.
Taiwan on
Mehdi,
a map if
Mehdi,
his life depended on it.
Mehdi, here's the problem. I'm afraid, listen, you know I like you, I respect you very much. You've built an amazing business with Zeteo. Congratulations. But one of the reasons Donald Trump got re-elected is that you guys have got literally Trump derangement syndrome. It plays into his hands. I prefer to be more even-handed with him. I prefer to praise him when he deserves it.
Okay, one other stopping point, then we'll watch more. Very similar. I think sometimes you can tell someone is uncomfortable in media whenever they kind of fall back on a talking point you've heard them repeat a bunch of times that doesn't really relate to what's being brought up. And it's especially wild to watch this right here because it's like, 2 days after Piers said something very similar to me when I was on, because I was bringing up the outrage we should have, maybe less so about whether or not Olympians are speaking out, and in this case it was Piers upset that Olympians were speaking out against the Trump administration while at the Olympics. Hey, maybe our outrage should be less about that and more about what they're speaking out about. Like, are you as outraged, given that we're doing a whole show about should athletics and politics mix and it feels like a bad look for someone? Shouldn't we be devoting way more time to what is actually so pressing that these Olympians who are patriotic, who do love their country, who are representing it, but they feel the need to specify they're not representing all that's going on because of how bad some of the stuff is that's going on? And his response was very similar. It was like, well, listen, Luke, it's people like you who were too hyperbolic about Trump that ended up ushering him into office. And so it was really you, the wokesters who made the Democratic Party seem toxic or something. And it's like, number one, that doesn't at all address what I'm saying. Why are you pulling us back to relitigating why Trump won the election? Which, if you think it's mostly because of people such as myself, who I would say was not hyperbolically predicting what Trump would do, but actually we're learning maybe wasn't hyperbolic enough about what Trump would do. It was less about that. It was obviously much more about a global phenomenon in response to pandemic era price increases. But Why are you pulling us back to relitigating that? It feels like it just, in your mind, is a one strong point to justify your support for Trump, which is the fact that America ended up agreeing with your stance in that election. But then the point that I made when I was on was, but Americans, based on polling now, regret voting for him. And even for all the stuff you would say about Biden, favor him now to Trump. Think he was doing a better job than Trump. And then the response was, oh, Biden was senile. It's like, whatever negative thing you're going to say about him just means America now feels that even that characterization of him was better than what Trump is now. So if you want to go back and relitigate that, okay, I guess now you're saying because you shouldn't be criticized for running cover for Trump during the campaign because Americans ended up voting for him. Well, now they regret it, number one, if you're appealing to public opinion. Number two, that's kind of a circular argument. Like, I'm saying I don't like that people like you put emphasis on the wrong things that weren't of a level of importance that deserve as much coverage that you gave, had this kind of panicked coverage of anything that was wrong on the Democratic side, but barely wanted to talk about blatant stuff Trump was saying and doing and promising to do that was horrific, even up to and including saying he'd violate the Constitution, would terminate it. But you're not at all as panicked and up in arms as you would be about like a trans sports issue. That is what I'm criticizing you for. So then you citing that people like you doing that helped to bring us Trump doesn't actually debunk our argument. What? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, yes, he did win the last election. That doesn't make your responsibility any different. Like, the fact that he won is a part of what I'm criticizing you for, not that he's the determining factor. But that being your only shield every time you get criticized, which he's doing now, which is, well, it's really people like you who were too hyperbolic about Trump that caused people that pushed people in his direction. Okay, well, it was people like you who were too dishonest about what he would actually do, and now you're struggling to figure out how to cover what he's doing because you realize it's actually as bad as what we were saying it was going to be. Okay, here, more.
You guys have got literally Trump derangement syndrome. It plays into his hands. I prefer to be more even-handed with him. I prefer to praise him when he deserves it, and I prefer to whack him when he doesn't. When you're so blindly enraged by everything, including silly jokes he says, you're so deranged about him. Actually, in the end, you managed to achieve the unthinkable. You managed to help get Trump re-elected.
Hold on.
He got re-elected with a bigger majority.
Do I get to speak? So, hold on. Let's just deal with a couple of things. The reason he got re-elected, I would argue, is the media gave him a pass. People like you, I came on your show on the eve of his election, and you were telling me all sorts of things. Oh, don't call him a Nazi, don't call him a fascist. Meanwhile, we have masked thugs
He's not a Nazi.
American citizens off the street.
He's not a Nazi.
In cold blood.
Craziest elbow against the desk. Okay, that's how angry I am. Okay. That's Mehdi's. Okay, so Piers did it. This is so weird. I feel like he is talking to me because this is exactly what he said to me a few days before. Why is he repeating the same things? It's like he's more outraged when some random person on Twitter calls Trump a Nazi than openly authoritarian things Trump is doing. The way he's openly attacking media outlets if they don't report the way that he likes. The way tyrannical government's actually being manifested in how he's operating ICE. Is that worth at least the same amount of outrage as when you feel like someone was too mean to him? Piers will repeat to me, which he did last time. He'll say, well, you were calling him a Nazi, which I never did, or you were calling him Hitler, which I never did, and that helped to get him elected. But then he isn't bringing that level of focus and emphasis to Trump's brazen authoritarianism. What? So then for him to do it again, well, why would you call him a Nazi? That's not even what Mehdi was saying. He was saying that Piers would give more emphasis to people saying mean words to Trump than Trump during the campaign. We don't even have to talk about what he's doing now. We already knew what he was going to do because he was saying it during the campaign. He was like, yeah, we need to shut down this media outlet. Yeah, the Constitution could be terminated under my authority.
I came on your show on the eve of his election, and you were telling me all sorts of things. Oh, don't call him a Nazi, don't call him a fascist. Meanwhile, we have masked thugs
He's not a Nazi.
American citizens off the street.
He's not a Nazi.
In cold blood. Shooting.
He's not a
But
Nazi.
I was right about his fascism. You were wrong about his fascism. I was right that he would try and stay in office in 2021. You were wrong about that. His people are shooting Americans.
He didn't stay in office in 2021.
Everything that I said would happen in a second term.
He didn't stay in office.
Piers, and you said he was
he's
nuts
not a
for that.
Nazi, and he's not a fascist.
Oh my God. Piers, you in January 2021 accused him of trying to stay in office. You said he sent an armed mob to the Capitol. You said he should be removed from office, never be president again. You changed your tune once he got back to the presidency. I get that. That's fine.
No.
I've been right about everything I've said about Trump. And as for being Trump derangement syndrome, it's the very opposite. Even I didn't think he'd be trying to start a war with Denmark. Even I didn't think he'd be shooting Americans in the street at 14 months into his presidency. Even I didn't think he'd be this corrupt on this level so openly. So in fact, he's been much worse than those of us who allegedly have TDSs. You have TDS, Piers. You have Trump denial.
Yeah. I got to stop it at some point, but it's something that I maybe should even apologize for. I don't know if I was hyperbolic enough. So for someone like Piers to be saying I helped get Trump elected because I was too hyperbolic and that was off-putting, I look back and I go, I don't think I was hyperbolic enough. As Mehdi's saying, I don't know if I predicted he would be doing all the stuff that he's now doing. And then, he listed the corruption. I've been talking about the authoritarianism. Let's talk about that. Are we really to believe that Piers would be the same level of outraged at Biden if he were doing what Trump is currently doing and enriching himself? I'd have to go look back, but I'm almost certain Piers did coverage over what was described as Biden's corruption with flimsy evidence. And we're talking about just maybe Hunter made money or more money than he would have because companies went, oh, his last name's Biden. All right, that compared to Trump himself being enriched to the tunes of billions, funneled money by foreign governments and then doing favors for those foreign governments through his World Liberty Financial, through his meme coin, etc. And that is a scale of corruption, literally, that I don't think we've ever seen in American history in the office of the presidency, ever. And if that were a Democrat, I think we can all say Piers would be doing breathless, nonstop coverage of it. But now he's less outraged about that and more outraged about if you call him the wrong mean word. If you use the F word, fascist. When Trump is actually trying to arrest journalists and prosecuting journalists, actually using the power of the government to silence media outlets or advocates that speak in ways he doesn't like, is, as Mehdi mentioned, using his ICE in ways that have led to people dying and then openly lying about it. And then to get to why we never would have had to be here in the first place, it's such a disingenuous argument to say that Trump isn't as anti-democratic as people are saying because he didn't stay in office last time. When even back then, Piers saw exactly the danger of what Trump was doing, which he tried. The point is that he tried to. And then I remember right shortly before the election, I was listing off like one of those lists of Trump said he's going to go after MSNBC. He said this about the Constitution. He's saying this about his political enemies and saying, that's bad. That's authoritarian. And then he ends up doing it. And on the political enemy piece or the media outlets piece, Piers responded. I wish I had the clip, but he responded with, well, Democrats have tried to lock Trump up. So essentially, yeah, you understand he'd want to do all that stuff as president. And it's like, okay, for someone who thought he should be removed from office, it sounds like, I don't remember those quotes from Piers, but Piers was nodding along to Mehdi saying them. You saw how much of a violation, potentially even of the law, it was what Trump tried to do in the fraudulent electors and pressuring local officials in all these different ways and trying to overturn election results outside of the way you could, which is the courts. He was trying to do outside in illegal ways, which were two of the prosecutions were related to that. And then I don't know how Piers would justify the classified documents case where Trump just kept obstructing investigators' attempts to get them back and the government's attempts to get what's actually legally theirs. Maybe the New York case he could bring a stronger case with, but point is, at worst, 3 out of the 4 cases were utterly and completely justified. That's not some big scheme that's a political witch hunt that's completely unjust. Whereas you have Trump getting rejected by multiple courts and trying to arrest Don Lemon and then finally finding a way to bring an indictment, or Trump's DOJ. You have Comey, similar thing. Prosecutors going, no, I can't bring this case. And he's like, fine, you're out. We're going to put something out. Letitia James, etc. He's actually himself grabbing the DOJ and going, this is what you're doing to hurt people I don't like. You have to. Like the most dystopian version of what MAGA was pretending like Democrats were doing. And Piers doesn't seem too offended by it. And he didn't when Trump was promising to do that. And instead, he would do 10 minutes coverage where he's like nearly orgasmic about Trump looking so good in a McDonald's apron or something. It was really him thinking that was a great stunt. And oh, Trump drove a garbage truck. Oh, wow, what a brilliant stunt. But refusing to talk about you could call it foreshadowing, but it's more than that. It's just promising of insanely authoritarian things that Trump was stating. And then whenever I bring those things up, it's not like he wasn't hearing them. His response is to go, well, yeah, I mean, Trump should want to do those things. That's not unbiased, calling balls and strikes. I'm just a journalist. That's partisanship. And if you admitted that, I think people would have less of a problem with it, but he doesn't. And then he does this sort of portrayal. So credit to Mehdi for calling it out, but irritating as ever.